Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education to order at 7 o'clock. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed, so if you wouldn't mind silencing or turning off your cell phones, it would be appreciated. And you will join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance. I apologize. I was supposed to call Wicklund up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, members of the board, members of the community. Dr. Nicholas, up to present our Pledge of Allegiance tonight is Ashley Varghese, Melissa Paul Vasquez, and Amy Trin.
Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Principal Gonzalez.
Good evening again, members of the board, members of the community, and Dr. Nicholas. I'm pleased to present to you our school's presentation for this evening. I want to provide a little bit of context about our presentation. We are going to have our wonderful scholars up here presenting, as well as a few of our teachers on our school culture committee. The theme of tonight's presentation is what we do at Wicklund to implement our PBIS plan, our Positive Behavioral Intervention Support Plan, to provide supports to all of our scholars so they have a safe and productive learning environment. We will have our teachers present the big picture of how we plan and organize this, to our scholars presenting the nuts and bolts of our meetings with our scholars and what we actually do to accomplish the lessons and learning. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my team.
Hi, good evening. I'll go into this first slide here. So this picture here is pictures of our wonderful school culture committee. It's a committee of teachers for almost all grade level spans, and we discuss positive behavioral intervention supports at our site, what's going well, what are we seeing is a need, and implementing new strategies. So it's a great hour with staff members collaborating. And so the next few slides, one of our school culture committee members will talk about the things that we have implemented this year.
Thank you. All right, so one of the things that we started last year and we continue doing this year was having these 10 days of character lessons at the beginning of the year. And so our school culture committee met and we came up with a trait we wanted to focus on each day and a quote so that all of the kids in the entire school are hearing the same quote, and kind of it's on our announcements and it carries out throughout the entire day. And we've given the teachers throughout campus different lesson ideas. So that way, for example, on Monday, we were all talking about respect, so they hear it everywhere throughout the day. And then Tuesday was all about responsibility, so they hear it at recess, in the lunchroom, in class, in the library, everywhere is all about that character trait. And there's 10 days, which ties in nicely with, our setting the routines and review of everything else also. And then another thing that we did in school culture committee this year is we revised our WOW tickets. So these are little tickets that we all have and pass out throughout the day, whether we're on recess or in the classroom. And they had 3 different things that we were recognizing them before. And this year we decided to put all 6 of the character pillars on them so that we were reinforcing those throughout the day and year more consistently. And this was really exciting. We just added our character pillar wraps at the front of our school. So when you walk in, it's a visual reminder to all of our students of what the different pillars are and their actual pillars. So it's pretty exciting. And then right now, oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Here we have the character counts pillars that Wicklund has added to our school. In the front, as scholars walk in, I can say myself, I notice each and every character count trait. It really reminds me of the importance of each one. And personally, I've noticed in the quad, there's a monthly change corresponding to each character count trait of the month, and that shows each and one of their importance. Thank you.
In addition, ASB has bi-weekly assemblies, which includes engaging presentations presented and created by ASB students. At these assemblies, activities and videos based on the character trait of the month is presented. These activities and presentations are created by ASB students, teachers, and many other students as well, not in ASB, creating an environment inspiring not only students in ASB to follow the character trait of the month. Here's an example of how students from kindergarten to second grade have an enjoyable experience at an assembly, learning about caring.
You care for me. I give a hug. I bandage your knee. I care for you. You care for me. I use kind words. High fives. I play nicely. I care for you. You care for me. I lend an ear. I love sweetly. Awesome job. Give yourselves a round of applause and have a seat.
This activity was created by a teacher and is an example of how kids are involved at assemblies. In the next slide, we will have a teacher at Wickland, Ms. Vollmer, explain about teacher involvement at assemblies.
Good evening. As she mentioned before, it is, I think, successful because the teachers and the kids are working together as a team. So it's not just us talking at them, but that they are actively involved in what we are doing. So teachers take on not only the role of getting their kids involved, but they often sometimes like to dress up. And I think that shows a lot of school spirit and gets the kids excited. I know from my own experience with my team, when we put together an assembly, we often get the kids up dancing and singing and really excited about that character trait of the month. So I think that camaraderie of the students and the teachers has shown a really big impact, and we really look forward to it, as well as the kids. The character counts fairy comes out once in a while, not every time.
Here's another video students from Ms. Twizzleman's class created. This video incorporated students about the character trait of the month, caring. Fairness. Could play? Yeah.
Fairness means sharing with others. Fairness means taking turns. Fairness means not taking advantage of others. Fairness means keeping things equal. Fairness means only taking your fair share. Fairness means sharing the workload. How do you show fairness?
Assemblies are not the only way students are encouraged to follow the monthly trait, but these encouraging, involving videos as well.
Wildcats love to share and wear their Wickland spirit wear around the campus. It shows their Wickland pride and reminds everyone of the character count traits and each of the character counts pillars. Here we have a video made by the 4th grade class, and it shows how we can encourage and incorporate the students into their character count learning. In addition, middle school ASB makes videos for the bi-weekly assemblies, and we show them to all grade levels, not just middle school. Here are some pictures of students spinning the wow wheel at the assemblies, as well as ASB students and our school mascot, Willie the Wildcat. By having the mascot present at the biweekly assemblies, ASB is able to excite and intrigue the students. The wow wheel is by spinning the wow wheel. By spinning the wow wheel, ASB is able to engage the students at the biweekly assemblies. The wow wheel has different rewards that are tailored to the grade span. This motivates students to demonstrate the character traits, and they could get wow tickets and spin the wow wheel.
So this slide here shows pretty much the fruits of our labor. This is a comparison of last year, number of disciplinary incidences compared to this year. This year we have approximately 150 more students. So as you can see, there was a decline in August, September, October. November is our outlier. The week before Thanksgiving, there was a lot going on with the kiddos. Maybe routine was different. Yeah, so that was something we reflected on, and then for December moving forward, we prepared ourselves for those weeks before breaks. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much.
Could I ask the teachers to please introduce themselves?
Sure.
I'm Elaine Vollmer. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Wickland for the last 6 years.
Yeah, and Kristen Ward, 4th grade at Wickland.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you very much. Appreciate you guys taking the time to come out and present. And it's obvious by the numbers here that the climate at that school, you're making leaps and bounds in bringing a positive school culture. So thank you very much for all the hard work.
Everything was great, but I gotta say, the column wraps making those pillars actual pillars, that's really cool. I thought that was really cool.
I'd like to thank the students for coming out tonight. You did a great job with the presentation.
Thank you all. And the students, if you would like to leave now and go home so you can do homework or whatever you may, if you'd like to stay and enjoy our riveting meeting, you can do that as well. Roll call, please.
Matthew Balzerini.
Here.
Ann Bonilla.
Absent.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Sharon Lampel.
Here.
David Pombo.
Here.
Ruxar Mohammed.
Absent.
Approval and/or corrections to the agenda.
Yeah, we have one correction. We have too many construction projects on the mind, on our mind. On info and discussion item G, the feedback that's coming back to the board is Evelyn Costa's feedback, not Julius Cordes. That was reviewed a number of times, and I'm perplexed as to why that wasn't caught, so I apologize.
I didn't notice it. I read Costa.
I was like, that's a typo.
I literally read Costa. Move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Committee reports. District Advisory Committee, Trustee Lampel.
The District Advisory Committee will meet on March 9th at 6 o'clock here in the boardroom.
District English District English Language Advisory Committee, DLAC, Trustee Clements.
We have not met since the last board meeting. The next meeting will be on April 30th here in the district boardroom. But the board will notice that in the information and discussion topics for today's meeting, district staff has requested a time change from the normal 6:30 p.m. to a revised time of 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. Education Committee. Our next Education Committee meeting is next week, February 25th at 6:30 here in the boardroom. Facilities Committee, Trustee Clements.
We did meet the day after the last board meeting. We reviewed the process for the athletic boosters selling advertising on the big screen in the gymnasium that they had donated. We reviewed the proposed 2-year agreement to host CSD's community swim program. There were enough pending items that it didn't make it on the agenda for approval in this meeting, hoping to be on the next one. Staff presented the energy update that's going to be on this, that's going to be presented today. Presented revised options for water refilling stations, including having district staff perform the bulk of the installation, which would save significant amounts of money. So they're going to probably be bringing that forward as a proposal to the board in the near future. The committee recommended staff proposal to use facility fee funds to install a sliding glass door to enable closing off the Mountain House Learning Commons, which is on the agenda for tonight. And our next committee meeting is May 4th at 6:30 here in the boardroom.
Thank you. Item E, Policy Committee, Trustee Clements.
We had a first reading in the last board meeting and waiting for another set.
Thank you. Safety Committee, Trustee Balzerini.
There's a first reading tonight for the safety plans, and our next meeting is on March 18th.
Thank you. And the Wellness Committee, we met last week and discussed the wellness plan that's on tonight's agenda, the first reading of it, as well as vaping detection devices and the upcoming farmers market events. Moving on to governing board reports. Trustee Lampel.
Wait for it. I have no report.
Thank you. Trustee Balzerini.
Be attending the San Joaquin County School Board Association meeting on Monday, the 24th, and CSBA Legislative Action Day is coming up, if any of you are interested in attending. It's on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. I will be going in my role with CSBA, and it's open to all school board members. We'll be meeting with legislators at the Capitol. And then lastly, I have a few comments and I guess a couple questions regarding the discussion surrounding independent study. There seems to be some misunderstanding in the community that we changed the policy, and that I just want to confirm is not the case. We did have a discussion in January, and the direction that was given was just, my understanding was direction to staff to come back with a proposed policy. There seems to be misunderstanding that that was what we approved, and while there was consensus from the board, I wasn't part of that consensus, and I would like to make my vote count as an action item. So I'm just confirming that's coming back as an action item.
It will be coming back as an action item.
Okay. Along the same lines, I would like to really, with the board's consensus, I'd like to really direct staff to put some serious time and energy into the policy, and we really need to outline the appeals process and whether or not that should be held in open versus closed session. Personally, well, I don't want to go into detail, but I think that needs to be researched. I think we need a consult from legal, and I don't want to have to continue to bring it back and keep changing it. I'd like to, with the board's permission, give the staff ample time. I don't think there's any hurry at this point in the year, maybe even into April, to bring it back so they can really do their homework.
I don't have a problem with staff taking all the time they need to come back with a comprehensive policy that everybody can live with.
And that meets legal guidance, of course.
Of course.
Well, and along the same lines, at some point in the near future, we may need to have a conference call with legal regarding this, because I have a lot of questions surrounding the appeals process part of it.
I was going to add clear procedures that the community can understand it, we can understand it, and there's no question of how to move forward in any situation.
I think another thing that, as far as the appeals process and applying for an independent study program in the first place, there needs to be clear guidelines as far as deadlines. You know, you have to have an appeal before this 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever it is, before the required requested independent study program because we don't meet every day and we can't hear an appeal that isn't in front of the board. It has to be put on an agenda. So we need lead time in order to take a look at appeals. And the sites need lead time in order to prepare for an independent study that's granted as well.
Thank you for that.
So just to clarify, staff is being directed to do research for guidelines, protocols, and deadlines, legally correct, specifically very clear protocols for how an appeal would be approved and or denied, and so that it's clear for the public and that it's consistent, fair, firm, and consistent, as I like to say.
I guess lay out the process
Yeah.
in the policy. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And that the final product before it comes to us is vetted with legal counsel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Clements, I think that's where we were on the board reports.
That concludes my report.
Thank you.
As mentioned previously, I attended the facility committee meeting on February 6th. Even though I have not yet responded to Trustee Balzerini, I do plan on going to the county thing on Monday. And that is all I have to report.
I forgot to, did I respond? I'm going. Okay.
And I'm going as well. If anyone wants to carpool over there, we can discuss it. Thank you. My board report, I went to Lammersville's Got Talent, and there were some very interesting talents exhibited there, very entertaining. I was even interviewed by the MC, which was interesting as well. I attended the aforementioned Wellness Committee. I went to the Wickland Science Fair. A lot of good science projects were on display at that. I went to the district sex education information meeting, and I thought it was very well presented and easy to understand. Questions were answered, and it was a good meeting. I participated in the K-8 principal interviews. I also, earlier today, went to Mountain House High School, and Miss Schofield, in her AP language class, does a project with the kids called Shark Tank, where they come up with products or whatever and try to sell them to both Miss Schofield and the rest of the class, as far as, you know, would you fund my project? And very interesting. I'm hoping to get them here before the board in the near future so that they can show the rest of the board what it's all about. I also earlier this evening went to the Cuesta Elementary Science Project presentation, and very interesting. A lot of good science projects were on display there, and that concludes my report. Receiving a public comment. The board shall give members of the public an opportunity to address the board either before or during the board's consideration of each agenda item. At a time so designated on the agenda, members of the public may also bring before the board matters that are not listed on the agenda of a regular meeting. The board may refer such a matter to the superintendent or designee or take it under advisement, but shall not take action at that time. The board may place the matter on the agenda of a subsequent meeting for discussion or action. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. I don't have any blue cards. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a public comment at this time? Thank you. Moving on, consent items for consideration. Governing board meeting minutes, regular meeting, February 5th. Ratification of budget revisions and warrants list, January 2020, contracts under $50,000. Ratification of 2019-2020 resignations, updated 2019-20 fundraisers, ratification of school-sponsored overnight trips, and acceptance of a donation of $100 from Danilo and Elizabeth Kike towards Wickland School Science Olympiad. Is there anything that anyone on the board would like to remove for further discussion?
I just have a comment, maybe it's a question. On the overnight trip, which I'm not pulling, it says that the students are on their own for lunch. This doesn't make sense to me. What?
I think I can clear that up. I don't think
Okay.
it means they're on their own. I think it means they provide their own lunch. They pay for their own lunch or bring it with them or whatever, not that they're,
No, I wasn't worried about them not being supervised. I was thinking financially. What if a wrestler doesn't have money for lunch? I mean, I'm sure. It just said on their own, and that caught my attention. So
Okay, so we'll make sure that everybody gets fed.
But-
And Mr. Harrison was trying to show off his purple shirt, so
that's pretty standard.
pretty
language
standard.
In the field trips that we've
Right.
approved.
If a student doesn't have the ability to be fed, they will be fed.
Thank you. Further?
Move to approve consent items for consideration.
Having a first and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. District Administrative Report, Superintendent's Report.
First and foremost, our boys basketball team is hosting a playoff game as the number 8 seed in the CIF playoffs. As we're speaking, I was hoping for a max prep update because I get halftime scores, but I haven't got one. But Mr. Harrison, end of the first quarter, we're down by 5. Early in the game. So congratulations. They won the WAC. I believe they were 13-1. They won it by 1 game advantage. And I understand it was covered in the Stockton Record. They had a miraculous fourth quarter comeback against Lathrop, which helped secure the title. So congratulations to the team and the coaches and the parents. Second of all, I have an aerial photo of the Cordis construction project that are very nice to look at. So I thought I would share those. This is kind of a distance shot. But you can kind of see the, well, you can see a lot. So in the upper left-hand corner, that's neighborhood A, also known as College Park, also known as Evelyn Costa Village. And then if you look, you can see the build-out of what's going on in neighborhood D. You can see the notorious D2 and D4 at the bottom of the middle part of the bottom. And you can see the play yards, the beginnings of the I don't know why I want to say jungle gyms, but the kids play apparatuses and the JV baseball field going in. Can you do the next slide, please? There's a more specific picture in the upper right. That's the Professional Development Center. I don't know why we're excited about this, but to the left of that parking lot, there's a small structure that's going to be. It has the ability to have restrooms. It has restrooms in it. It's a store area to share with JV boys and girls teams, and there'll be a little area for a snack bar in case people want to use it. And then you have the greater campus, and if you'll notice in the middle, the wood structure, we had a value engineer at Altamont out the shade structure, and we were able to build this one at the same time, which saves us money. And so there's another shot of the campus, but it's moving along beautifully. And the aerial photos do the dirt justice, and you can kind of see things better. So we thought we would share that with the board and the community. So any questions on that? There's the PDC.
The JV baseball field, which is adjacent to the PDC, that's technically part of the park, is that correct?
No, that is our property.
Oh.
The way this is going to work is the JV baseball field is on our property. Right next to it in the park, and I'm not sure which the configuration, which part of the rectangle there it's going to fall into, will be we've negotiated with the city the JV girls field. So we'll be able to, the vision was is the bus comes in on tradition, varsity teams get off and go to the right, JV teams get off and go to the left, and they parents can park and go to see their kids. So it was a long negotiation to get the JV softball field together, and we don't have any timeline on that park. We have no control over that. But there's the JV field, and so that will be done. It'll be interesting if it's ready for at any time during the baseball season because there's literally no grass. And if they hydro seed it, which is probably the case, I don't know. But we're getting close. And then the only other thing I wanted to just share with the board is we have taken on one of the great bureaucracies in the state, the DSA, Department of School Architecture, and the like. And on our modernization vision for the district, we have attempted to identify projects. We brought to the board 3 different tiers in multiple colors. Mr. Legrand did that. We had a plan. It all came down to Form 7. And so we were trying to do is get specific projects done earlier that we would get credit for in the state funding using the Form 7. As we've gone through this adventure, Form 7 is no longer what it was when we started, and the rules are changing. So we are punting, which we don't like to do. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to do a modernization plan and take it through DSA, trying to outsmart Form number 7. I didn't prove to be smart enough. And so we have a little delay. We have tried, it's been an epic effort to try to deal with this thing. The goal is to spend approximately $675,000 out of Measure L, starting with Lammersville, our oldest campus, and then acquire approximately $1 million in state matching funds when we come up on the list, assuming Prop 13, the new construction bond that's coming forward next month, or another one, and do projects. What that is going to mean is the DSA will tell us certain things we have to do with that older campus, and some of that $1 million will be spent on what they tell us we have to fix. So I'm bringing forward our best efforts fell short of the or the Form 7, but we will live to fight another day and come forward with a full project. So it was a good idea, didn't work out. That is my report.
I find it hard to believe that the state of California would change the rules in the middle of the game, but just me.
Good effort to stay ahead of bureaucracy.
And to be clear, we didn't lose anything. We were attempting to gain something through outsmarting Form 7. We didn't lose anything.
Correct.
In
Just time.
not being able to do it. Right.
Just time.
Item B, district enrollment report.
When the board packet went out, we had 6,060 students. We are presently at 6,068 students, 49 students in the enrollment queue, which means they should show up, depending what it is. But we continue to experience growth, so it's an exciting number.
Thank you. Item C, district maintenance and operations report. Mr. Legrand.
Good evening, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I attended the construction meeting today for Cordis, the PDC, and the warehouse. As you can see from the pictures, there's lots of good things happening at Cordis. Backstop are going in on both the baseball field, and there's their backstop on the east side of the campus too that's going in. They're starting to turn the power on in the buildings. They're starting to fire up the HVAC systems in some of the buildings. The exterior doors have showed up. They're starting to paint them, and so they can seal off the buildings. Ceiling tiles are getting dropped in all over the place. They're starting to work on the kitchen. They expect the kitchen equipment to arrive sometime in mid-March. The playground equipment schedule will be installed towards the end of March. They're looking to hydro seed the ball fields the first week of April. So lots of good things happening. The weather is definitely cooperating for us with that. The PDC, the metal roofing panels started going on. So if you go by there today, you'll see the color scheme really well. The color-coded stucco's on with the kind of a burgundy reddish metal ceiling tile, roofing tile, sorry. The warehouse is basically done. The inspector was here from the county. He wanted a couple of tactile signs on the restroom and the exit doors. Those are supposed to come in on Friday. Once that's happened, we'll have the inspector out and he can sign up on the building and we can start moving in. Keenan was here last Tuesday and Wednesday. They did their annual property and liability inspections. I spent 2 days with the lady walking around. We walked all the sites. We went to all the common areas, libraries, multis, all the fields, stadiums, gyms, and we picked out 5-6 classrooms at every school. Received very positive comments. I should have a report in about 2 weeks, and I'll share it with the board once I get that. There was only one area she had a little bit concerned about. In one of the electrical rooms at Altima on the multi, there was a looked like a leak in a ceiling tile, and about the next tile over was a sprinkler. So we were concerned maybe the sprinkler's leaking, but we popped the tile and it wasn't. So anyways, nothing dramatic on that. And then we conducted custodial interviews on the 7th. We selected a candidate, and going through the process, we expect them to hire. This is for the high school. We expect them to start the first week of March. And then I was at the facilities committee meeting on the 6th. And that's all I have for tonight. Be happy to answer any questions. Will that make you fully staffed again? What's that? Will that make you fully staffed again? I don't know. I don't even want to. Yes. I don't want to. We'll see how long it lasts. Any other questions? Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh.
In the last report I think you mentioned, was it fire inspection of Lammersville?
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple of minor items. Those were...
It's all been resolved.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 9, action items. Item A, consider approval of the 2019-2020 intra-district transfer requests. Staff report?
None.
Move to approve the 2019-2020 inter and intra-district transfer requests.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item B, consider approval of the 2020-2021 interdistrict transfer requests. Staff report?
None.
I'll move for approval of 2020-2021 interdistrict transfer request.
Further discussion? Having a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item C, consider approval of the agreement with Solution Tree for Professional Learning Communities not to exceed $104,000. Staff report?
Yeah, over the last 2 years, starting with the high school and then moving into our K-8s, we've made a district-wide systematic effort or initiative started around professional learning communities. In gathering feedback through the curriculum department and Heather Sherburne, this is the recommendation for next year's support. There'll be more days of individual coaching with each school site, and we are very happy with the results so far, and we look forward to what this does for us in building these professional learning communities, and we strongly recommend this approval.
Thank you.
I'll move for approval of the agreement with Solution Tree for Professional Learning Communities not to exceed $104,000.
Second.
Further discussion? Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item D, consider approval of the 2018-2019 certification of corrective action and audit finding corrective action forms. Staff report?
Yes, in the auditing process, it was I identified that we had a Williams Act posting related to instructional materials that wasn't out for an entire 10-day period, though it was out. So this is our way of explaining how we're going to fix that.
9 days instead of 10. Move to approve the 2018-2019 certification of corrective action and audit finding corrective action forms.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item E, consider approval of Governing Board Resolution 19-2017, authorizing agents of the district and authorizing said agents to sign warrants and orders drawn on the school district funds. Staff report?
I'm excited about this one. This one allows Gloria Grijalva, our new Assistant Superintendent of Business, to be a signer on our forms and warrants related to funds.
Move to approve Governing Board Resolution 19-20-17, authorizing agents of the district and authorizing said agents to sign warrants and orders drawn on school district funds.
Second.
Questions or comments? Having a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Roll call, please.
Matthew Balzerini.
Aye.
Colin Clements.
Aye.
Ann Bonilla.
Absent.
Sharon Lampel.
Aye.
David Pombo.
Aye. Item F, consider approval to renew the two-year lease agreement 2020-2022 with Continuing Development, Inc. Staff report?
Yes, this is a long-standing relationship we have with an after-school provider and preschool program, one of which owns their own building and one of which rents out our other buildings. So this is a 2-year contract. We'd like to continue the relationship with CDI.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the 2-year lease agreement, 2020 to 2022, with Continuing Development, Inc., CDI, for Wickland and Altamont schools.
Second.
Questions or comments? Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item G, consider approval of Cordis Elementary School and High School expansion furniture contract with Dimco for $790,210.99. Staff report?
Yes, Demco is the provider that we chose to work with us to furnish the Cordis Elementary School. And in addition, we needed additional furniture at the high school due to student population growth. So we recommend this purchase. Staff did a really good job of keeping the price down and getting as many kids what they needed.
I had a quick question. I looked over these documents and I couldn't find what was being ordered for the high school. That document just said a lot of stuff for the new school, of course, but I didn't see anything.
That
One chair.
Solid.
I don't know, did I miss it?
Would you like me to point it out?
Mr. Harrison, thank you.
Sorry.
It's in the quote.
Yeah. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Fat fingers. Darn it. Sorry.
Beg your pardon?
My There we go.
I mean, you know, this was riveting reading.
Was.
So if you, my apologies, I have to put on my glasses.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, I
High
see
school.
it.
You see it at the end there where it says, and there's like 4 lines?
Yeah, it's 4 chairs.
It's hard to see.
It was close.
It's sets, yeah.
Thank you.
You found, okay.
Move to approve Cordis Elementary School and High School expansion furniture contract with Demco for $790,210.99.
Second.
Any further question or comment? Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item H, consider approval of 2020-2021 job share proposal for certificated employees. Staff report?
Yeah, we have the ladies out here, the teams, who have provided to the board a request for job share. I do want to say that this has been a standard practice, and the teams that have come forward in the past have done an exceptional job of working as a team and also educating our kids. And this is a model I think other districts should come and look at and try to replicate. So by doing a fantastic job, it makes it easy to recommend approval of this item.
I read through all of the attached documents, very, very impressive. So I'm honored to make a motion to approve the 2020-2021 job share proposals for certificated employees Mia Hicks and Stephanie Martin, and Jessica Fauerbach. Did I get it right? And Brianne Fauerbach, and Carlinda Lowther, and Jessica McCain.
Second.
And are Jessica and Brienne sisters? Sister-in-laws, okay. 'Cause I read that and I'm like, man, if I tried to job share with my brother, we would kill each other.
I'd like to echo what Trustee Lampel said. You guys, well thought out, very well documented, so thank you for that. Appreciate it.
And I do agree with the superintendent's comments about our process. This is unique, and it tells me as a board member what these folks are going to do. And I'd love to have a kid in one of those classes.
Well, frankly, what I find more impressive than the documents, the supporting documents here, are the actual job that's been done in those classrooms. I've visited those classrooms in the past, and they are well run, and the students are lucky to have those teachers in the classroom. Further questions or comments by the board? First and second. Okay. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absence.
Thank you for what you guys do every day.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies. Item I, consider approval of facilities usage fees, $43,000 for installation of a sliding glass door in the Mountain House High School. This says library. I thought it was the Learning Commons. Staff report?
Yay, I'm so glad to see that word.
Whoever reviewed that Evelyn Costa design feedback was obviously working on this one. So we've been trying to figure out how to make the open room both flexible to be open and to close. And we have seen a number of different ideas go forward that were not feasible or didn't make sense or weren't aesthetically pleasing. We finally came up with one. It's taken a couple of years. Our recommendation is to approve this matter or this measure or this project using facilities use fees. It would allow us to close off that room and have that room available to the public, and also keep the flexibility that we've designed around the library, which is now considered to be a Learning Commons.
Question?
Yes.
So I'm not against the project. I am potentially about the funding source. How many public requests have been used for this facility?
So we looked into that, and the public requests have only been applied to that facility for elections, but we do have school-based programs, boosters, things like that, foundations that have requested it and used it. They're not charged a fee.
Okay. I'm sure Alvina can attest. Back in the days when we first started these discussions with Shane and I on the committee, we made promises that I would like to see us keep. And that was fees collected from the folks using those facilities. Those fees would go back into those facilities. And I don't think this fits that criteria, personally.
The conversation that we had to address just that issue at the Facilities Committee is that with these doors, that room will probably be able to be used more by the public because it can be closed off.
Okay, but the folks that have paid the fees aren't getting them back, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, I understand that that account is starting to grow, and there's people want to use those funds. However, I think those funds need to be saved for large ticket items. Say when we have to have the basketball court at Wickland replaced, or something like that, where it's going to be a large ticket item where the community uses on a constant basis. are there other funding sources that could be used for this project?
If the board would say that they don't want to use the facilities use fees, then I would bring this back as a Measure L request.
I agree with Trustee Balzerini. I like the idea. I like the making the room more useful. It can be partitioned off. It can be used as a classroom in the daytime. It can be used for other events at night. I also agree with his opinion that the fees were collected as use fees, and when this was discussed by the board, charging the fees and where those fees would go and all that, we had very robust discussions about whether the district was collecting these fees to make money or collecting these fees to supplant district funds for the upkeep of said facilities. And although I understand that this will make this facility more useful as potentially being rented out to the public, I don't feel like it follows the spirit of the discussions we had at the time.
I can see both sides to the argument. I have a question on a procedural question. We put it on the agenda of the facilities committee. We discussed it. And I raised the question about this, and the consensus of the committee was we support the recommendation. I believe that our job as the committee is to go ahead and follow the consensus of the committee to bring it to the board.
Right.
And the board obviously has not only the ability but the responsibility as a 5, or in this case 4-member board, because Trustee Bonilla is absent, but to evaluate that specific fact. So we knew that it was a debatable issue, so I just want to make sure our responsibility was still to do that, knowing that the board was going to adjudicate, for lack of a better word, that term.
And I guess I should have started by saying, no disrespect to the current committee. The current committee doesn't have the same knowledge base that the other one does.
Exactly.
And I think the process worked well,
Perfect.
according to plan. But again,
Even with whether the current committee has that historical knowledge or not, I think the process worked. The committee thought that was a good use of the funds. If the board doesn't think so, then that's the way we set
And we
set the
specifically
process
discussed
up.
that very topic
We did.
as a team and said, okay, we understand that it's going to make it more rentable. We agree with district, as a committee, the consensus was we agree with district staff recommendation.
No, and I appreciate the input of our 2 board members that have a lot more experience with the facilities committee. I'm just glad that the superintendent has told us we can still do this project just with a different funding source. Because I think it is a good project, but maybe just from different funding.
And I would just like to state for the record, I don't think that, and I believe that Trustee Balzerini would concur with this, I don't think that every dime has to be spent tit for tat. If monies were collected on a soccer field, they don't have to all be spent on the soccer field.
Yeah.
But they should be spent generally in the things that are bringing those revenues in. And in the future, if this room gets heavy usage and the committee recommends that usage fees be used to pay for new carpets in that room, then, that'll be.
I only bring it up because it's still fresh in my mind. I still have battle wounds from, we got beat up. We got beat up in those first couple meetings. I mean, packed house, it was nasty. So it's still kind of, fresh in my mind.
Trustee Balzerini, Trustee Lampel and I looked at each other on the committee and said, yeah, we're going to be talking about this one.
No, I think this is a perfect example of the process that we set in place, that it works.
Absolutely. So I guess for the superintendent, do you know for sure that we can, if you know what account it can come from, we can still move this forward?
So if the board would like to give me direction to use Measure L funds to pay for this project, and there's 3 of you that says yes, then we can go forward and make it.
I'll move to approve Measure L funds to fund $43,000 for installation of a sliding glass door in the Mountain House High School Learning Commons.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Having a first and second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries as amended with one absence.
Mr. President, these ladies are sitting out here and they're being unbelievably polite, but I'm wondering if, since their item has been approved, that they might want to go home and
You don't have to stay.
I just assumed by the nature of your quiet that you were
Good night, ladies.
Thanks for all you do, ladies.
enthralled. Thank you and good night.
That was very thoughtful. He wouldn't get up while we were talking.
Item J, consider approval of TK-12 summer school and extended school year ESY 2020. Staff report?
Yeah, we have made a commitment in this district, led by this board, to invest our funds in supporting student needs in summer school. And not every district does that. And every year I say the same thing. ESY is a have to. It provides support for our students with IEP needs. But the summer school program at the elementary level and the high school program, it goes above and beyond. And I think it's an excellent investment in our students. And not only are we allowed to do credit recovery for high school kids, but we keep some kids from summer learning loss and other very important things. I think it's a really good program. We've been doing it for 5 years now, I think, and we strongly recommend the TK-12 summer school and also the ESY, which is a have to.
I'll move for approval of summer school for TK-8, ESY, and high school.
TK-12.
No, it's TK-8 is one program, ESY is another program, and high school's a third program.
Second.
Further discussion? I'd just like to say that we, years ago, made this commitment to our students, and I'm very proud and happy that we can continue to keep this commitment funded. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item L, consider approval of Governing Board Resolution 1920-18.
You skipped something.
Did I?
Okay.
Okay, I'll go back then. Item K, consider approval of revised classified unrepresented job description. Staff report?
So with the positions such as behavioral specialist, there becomes opportunities to update job descriptions and expand the number of credentials folks can have, which makes it easier for us to hire the professionals we need. This is an example of that.
Move to approve revised classified unrepresented job description, behavior specialist.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Now, item L. Consider approval of Governing Board Resolution 19-20-18 of intent to dedicate land to Mountain House Community Services District. Staff report?
So I told a story about Form 7. This one probably falls in the same category. There are electrical boxes and community access points that are already 5 in total that we were asked to work through this process with Mountain House developers and the Community Service District. We presented to the board at that time 2 or so years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. We were waiting for them to finish and complete their work. They have just completed their work. And this allows, they take over the property, but they're also responsible for the junction boxes and things like that. So we recommend this. We don't have any responsibility for the access points they have. And we were ready to approve this 2.5 years ago when it got delayed for whatever reasons in their camp.
A couple of questions. So the boxes that are on those, in that area, those belong to the CSD?
With approval to this, is they would be, yes, they would take over that little, so like take the little tooth. So technically that would be ours, but their thing is on it. By doing this easement, they would be responsible for it and it would be theirs.
So
That's my understanding of how this goes.
to clarify, I think what the question was, the equipment currently on there belongs to the
Yes.
CSD. We're just deeding the
Yes.
underlying property.
Correct. Sorry.
Why don't we just charge them? They got their stuff on our property, right? No?
Rents are high.
Just a question. I mean, did we research that option?
We did not research that option. We've been patiently waiting for them to finish their process to just, we've followed this in the past.
Just trying to make us some money. You guys don't want it, that's fine.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve Governing Board Resolution 19-20-18 of intent to dedicate land to Mountain House Community Services District.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. And I lost my place again.
Roll call.
Information discussion.
Roll call, please.
Matthew Balzerini.
Aye.
Colin Clements.
Aye.
Ann Bonilla.
Absent.
Karen Lampel.
Aye.
David Pombo.
Aye. Item 10, information and discussion items, LUSD Energy Report. Mr. LeGrand.
I just want to point out that 2 weeks ago, we had to cancel this, and I know that everyone's been anxiously anticipating this opportunity to hear Jimmy present the energy report.
Way to set me up for failure. I love it. That's great. Way to. I gave this report a couple weeks ago to the Facilities Committee, so I apologize to the two of you who heard it last time. I will try to use some new jokes or something to spice it up a little bit. So anyways, I was asked to do a energy report for the district. Do I go that way? Oh, cool. Some of the pictures are hard to see, so I brought my notes up here so I can look at them. Just a little background. As part of our Prop 39 money, we received the services of a part-time energy manager, and part of her job for us is to do site visit summary reports and to maintain an energy dashboard for the district and to do energy assessment reports for all of our sites. She came out the Monday, November 25th, which is the first Monday of Thanksgiving break. The site visit report, the purpose, just to see where we're at, make sure things aren't running that shouldn't be running, lights are off when no one's in the room, the outside lights are not on during the daytime, the HVAC units aren't running when no one's in the room, that kind of stuff. Just opportunity for improvement and kind of a outside set of eyes come in and see where we're at energy-wise. I wanted to show you this. This is a typical energy breakdown of a K-12 school. If you notice, lighting is 26% of our energy costs. And then if you add up cooling, heating, and ventilation, HVAC, that accounts for 38% of that. And the third most expensive, most expensive thing is office equipment. So HVAC and lighting are our two biggest energy users, so we always focus on those two first. So on the 25th, she visited 3 sites, Lammersville, Bethany, and Wickland. Those were the sites that received the Benstar thermostats as part of our Prop 39 money a couple years ago. On Monday the 25th, the temperatures were in the 40s to mid-60s. There was no school in session, so the units, there was minimal staff on campus, and the expectation would be that the thermostats were running in the unoccupied holiday mode. Lammersville, most of the interior lights were off in the unoccupied rooms except for the ones noted there. Most of the exterior lights were off during the daytime except the rooms noted there. Thermostats were operating the occupied mode, not the unoccupied mode. The set points were fairly consistent except for a few rooms. And the unoccupied settings were, the unoccupied settings were consistent. And she found 3 mini fridges and 2 rooms that had the lights on had light bulbs directly placed next to the thermostat to try and fool the thermostat. Well, I got pictures of that later. Bethany, all the interior lights were off in the unoccupied rooms. Exterior lights were off. Thermostats were also in the occupied mode. And set points were pretty consistent. Occupied schedules were pretty consistent. Found 2 space heaters in the main office, a mini fridge in one of the classrooms. The library had a coffee maker that was left on. It was on, this is Monday morning, so it was left on over the weekend. One of those Keurig coffee makers. And then we found a couple TVs that were left on in the classroom. So again, this is Monday morning, those were left on all weekend. Wickland, again, the interior lights were found off. Exterior lights were off during the day. Thermostats were also in the occupied mode. And then the set points were somewhat consistent. There's quite a few rooms that are off. Schedules are off in there. The heating unoccupied heating set points were consistent except for 2 rooms, or 1 room, sorry. And then the, yeah, that's Wickland. So this is, when you look at the VentStar thermostats, this is what they look like. This is a typical configuration of a thermostat. Cooling is set to 75, heating is set to 68. You see Monday, November 25th, that's the time she was there. But the notice below the cooling button, it says occupied 1. That should say unoccupied holiday mode on that day that she was here. This one, the run times, this is typical run time, 7 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. That's what we have, they're supposed to be programmed out. We have some creative teachers, and so they're trying to trick the thermostat, so to speak, and put a light bulb directly above it so the AC would think the room was warmer than it actually was. I'll say it again, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I like the light, but it really shouldn't be pointing directly at the thermostat the way it is there. This is the multi. No one's in the room. Lights are on. This is Bethany. If you look at the thermostat, the set points have been altered in the classroom. If you look, it says cool to 68 and heat to 67. What that is horrible for the equipment. The units are going to be constantly fighting each other between heating and cooling. We kick it on, heating, cooling. It's really bad on the equipment. The energy manager recommends at least a 5-degree spread between those 2 set points. So someone has gone in and changed these. Another example from Bethany, 68 and 66, those are too close together. And again, we only cool down to 75 with a 2-degree swing either way. So they can go down as low as 73. And this one is at 68. It's 5 degrees lower than that. So this one, the run times have been changed. Instead of the 7 to 1:30 I showed you earlier, I think it says 2:45, 7 a.m. to 2:45. Someone has changed that. There's a picture of the coffee maker that was on. These are the TVs that we found on Thanksgiving break. This is at Wickland. The schedules and the set points have been altered in this room. If you see the start time, 6:15 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. And this unit has actually been set, normally they're set in the auto mode. This one has been changed to cool, and the cooling set point has been lowered down to 69 degrees. Another one from Wickland, same thing, 6:15 to 4:45. And this one's been set to 65 degrees for cooling. Wickland, if you notice, our unoccupied set points are 95 and 45. So if in the summertime the room gets above 95 degrees, the AC automatically kicks on to cool it down. Same thing in winter. If the temperature dips down below 45 degrees in the middle of the night, the unit will kick on automatically. This one's been adjusted to 75, so it wouldn't go down. It's 30 degrees above where it should be. These are recommendations from the energy manager. Obviously, regularly check all the thermostats to ensure they're operating on the correct time, schedules, etc. Train staff to shut off TVs and whatnot when they're not in the room. Regularly check the exterior lights, make sure they're not on during the day. She recommends putting all the small appliances only in the staff room. Mini fridges and whatnot should only be in the staff rooms, not in the individual classrooms. She says it costs up to $75 a year to operate a mini fridge in a classroom. And then this is the last year, probably the biggest ones, to reset the security password on the thermostats, because obviously people know it and are going in and making changes. And connect the thermostats have Wi-Fi capability. And instead of me having to physically go around and do every single one, I could have the ability to do it from my laptop. So I need to work with Sean on that. That's one of our goals. Also part of the Prop 39 money is to have an energy dashboard. The energy dashboard has 3 components. This is what the first page looks like. These pages are interactive, where if you scroll your mouse over them, the figures, the numbers actually show up, and you could actually look at these graphs and stuff, get the actual numbers for all these, all the info on this chart. The bottom left corner, the bar graph has the usage by year, 2017, 2018, 2019. So I'll tell you guys, I told the facilities committee that our base year is 2017. Probably not the fairest baseline for us in general, because we weren't fully built out everywhere in 2017, but that's when this whole thing started, so that's what we go off of. When you go by school comparison, the column on the left is total electricity cost per kilowatt hour. I'll remind you that Lammersville Elementary is the only school that has PG&E, so that's why it's the most expensive. The middle graph has this cost per square foot. Lammersville obviously with PG&E, and then Cuesta followed by the DO. And then the total, the column on the far right has kilowatt hours per square foot. DO, Cuesta, then the high school are top 3. This is the estimated savings part of our graph. The yellow line is the 2017 baseline year. Because if you look at November and December, we don't have the bar graph there. MID is such a small utility. We have to get that information quarterly from them, whereas we can get PG&E almost daily. So at the time she gave us info, we didn't have the billing for most of the schools for November, December. The question always comes up about Cuesta. We talked about that for a while now. I'll read the highlights. The energy use for the site has decreased. It went down 11.6% from 2017 to 2018. Cost avoidance of approximately $20,000. And thus far in 2019, from January to October, it decreased 33%, approximately $53,000 in savings. And the energy decrease is even more impressive when you factor in the weather, because there were more warm days that required cooling and more cold days that required heating. So the fact that we have more of those days and yet still reduce energy consumption is even more impressive. Oh, where's my other one? I don't know. I don't know. I had another one. Oh. I had a different slide with all the info. I don't know where it went, but anyways, it had.
You presented the raw data at the facility committee.
Yeah, it was on here. I don't know what happened.
So what were the big changes that were made at Cuesta to
So a lot of it is habits. I used to go to Cuesta and see doors open with the heater running, the AC running, that kind of stuff, and the staff has been a big part of that. And the second thing is we've really nailed down on the energy management system for the HVAC system, and try to tighten the screws on that and get a better control over that. We now have remote access to the site, which we didn't have. We just got that within the last month. So I could pull it up and Larry could pull it up from the shop. So that's part of the big issue. When Cordis comes online, there's going to be a server that's dedicated to just the energy management system. So we're going to be able to roll Hanson, the high school, Cuesta, all through Cordis. So we'll have one access point to look at all of our HVAC usage for those 4 sites. So that'll be a big help to us. So some of the problem for us at some of the schools, the units are not, the unit label doesn't match the room number. It wasn't set up properly, so we're going through and trying to fix that. The unit number will go off the architect drawings, which may not match the actual room number. So we're trying to clean some of that stuff up. And we've just been trying to focus on that kind of stuff.
I know in the past there was discussion about replacing the thermostats at Cuesta. Was that ever completed?
It's an ongoing discussion. The first bid that came through was a little over $150,000, which I thought was completely ridiculous. And then I went back to them and they got it down to around 98,000, which again, I think is completely ridiculous. The Cordis system, brand new system, probably costs somewhere in that neighborhood. So, we're still working on that. I'm hopeful that when Cordis opens, that again, we'll funnel everything through Cordis and we'll be able to have a tighter handle on all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's worth the money to do a full blown system. It's just not. So
Yeah, it would be interesting to see that number juxtaposed against the potential savings, which since we've been going down in usage, maybe the savings aren't there.
it's been going down since 2017 and it'll keep going down, I believe. So
There's that slide.
oh, there's my last slide. Thank you.
Magic.
So the question had come up about raw. What does it actually mean? What do you mean raw numbers, raw numbers? So what I went through on that interactive graph, I went through and pulled all the numbers so you could see exactly dollar-wise what we have spent at every site from 17, 18, and through October of 2019. This is the whole district. So if you look at Cuesta went from 172 to 154, and through October of this year, of 2019, sorry, is 106. So some of the sites, you know, the high school has gone up, but again, we didn't have full build out in 2017, so that's why the costs have gone up. We have a pool now. We didn't have all that stuff a couple years ago.
In the beginning, you said Prop 39 funds and the person who does this research ends this year.
Yeah,
What happens after that?
it's a good question. There's talk of extending it, the Prop 39 money. I don't know how that's obviously with the state or with the legislature. I haven't heard anything conclusive on that. We would have the option to probably contract directly with the energy manager if we think there's value in there. I don't know what that would cost, but it's something we could look at. I want to say in the Prop 39 money we got, I think it was around $10,000 a year per year. Alvina probably knows better than me, but I think it's around $10,000 a year for that service. At that point, we may look at it, see if it's worth it or not. Some of the stuff we could do ourselves. They have software that analyzes the utility bills. I don't even see the utility bills. So someone should be taking a look at those. If not her, then someone in the district, but it's something we can look at down the road.
Yeah, from what I see, a lot of time, energy, and money has been spent into this process. We need our staff to support this. Is it possible to have language added into contracts showing that they're good faith in supporting our measures in energy conservation? I know it's negotiation times with both bargaining units, correct?
That is, we're currently negotiating with LTA. We have a settlement with CSEA. That doesn't mean we're not meeting with them. We certainly can educate them on the fact that we save money on electricity and people don't run things that leaves money to give towards people's salary and benefits and programs.
Well, even if it's not in the contracts, at least we could see if we can have their leadership support us in energy conservation. I think there's a savings, and you know, that money can be used elsewhere in the classroom, perhaps.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, any other questions? Well, I appreciate everyone's help and support, so thank you.
Thank you. Item B, first reading of the 2020-2021 LUSD Safe Schools Plan and School Site Safety Plan. Staff report?
We talked about model programs with our job share. I think our school's safety committee and the school plan process that we do here is comprehensive. We are obviously going to move to a second reading and approval, but this is one of the excellent programs we offer to everyone.
Discussion by the board.
I wanted to thank the committee for all the effort that went into thinking through all of those issues and putting together both plans.
Yeah, as a district, I think we've come leaps and bounds from previous years. So, Mr. Harrison, thank you for your leadership on that. Very well done.
I'd like to thank both the District Safety Committee and the school site committees for their work on the school site safety plans. There's no further discussion. Move to item C, first reading of the 2020-2021 LUSD Wellness Plan. Staff report.
And again, another model program with an emphasis on real health issues for kids. Real things are discussed. We do neat things like the health fair, but we also do a very good job of making sure that we can put together anything that we need to ensure the safety and wellness of our kids.
Thank you. Further discussion by the board?
Another thank you to the committee for all the work putting that together.
Thank you. And thank you to Mr. Harrison and Ms. Lampel
You're welcome.
Thank you to the committee. Item D, Wickland Elementary School parking lot expansion. Staff report.
Yeah, so a journey was created with a complaint that came in from a grandma that was kind of came from an odd angle, and we looked at it, but the complaint inspired this item. When you go to each of our school sites for the K-8s and you look at the parking lot configuration, there are two models. There's one that's in the kind of this rectangular form, and then you have ones that are kind of a long row. So we looked at the Wickland parking lot and compared it to the Altamont parking lot. And what we discovered was Grandma was right about one thing. There's not enough parking at Wickland. And what we discovered is that there are 2 rows for parking in Wickland, and there are 3 rows for parking at Bethany and Altamont. So where the blue arrow is, where it says 2 rows of parking, this is the Wickland lot. They don't have the second row. It's a drop-off lane. So we looked at the possibility, or we would like the direction from the board to look at the possibility of investigating a parking opportunity to the west side of the parking lot. At Altamont, not only do they have the 3 rows of parking, but they also have this little section that would kick out into this field. That one runs east and west, but we feel like we could fit quite a bit of parking in the north-south, that rectangle there. But I think it is valid. Grandma's complaint is valid that there's not enough parking at Wickland, and also we feel like we could possibly solve that problem. But the school at Wickland is going to grow, and when the apartments finally come in sometime in the long distance future, there's another 100 kids that are going to come in. So just an opportunity to look into something and see if it's tenable, doable, and seeing if we could do something with that. So thoughts from the board?
I think it's a great idea. Wickland parking lot's been a problem forever, so yeah, glad to see it.
It's a big school.
We were driving our kids there back in 2004.
What happens when you let a developer design a school, you know? I mean,
Okay, so we'll look into that, investigate if that's a possible Measure L project or something else, but we'll see what that looks like.
When you brought up the potential parking, I was trying to think of a way to make a different drop-off lane so that the people didn't have to go through the parking lot to get to the drop-off lane and vice versa. And I haven't come up with a good idea, but
We don't want to lose the use of that soccer field. So yeah, we're limited in space, and then there's that jut out for the bus, which I had assumed that that was ours, but it's not. It's the city's. So that would be another place to do something like that, but we don't have control of that. So we'll look into all the options and see what we can do. But I think if we added 15, 20 more spaces, that would alleviate some problems.
Should have done a land swap.
further discussion by the board? Item E, Joint DLAC and Education Committee date time change. Staff report?
Yeah, we had a conflict due to a function, and when we get towards the end of the year, I think this is an inevitable process. Assistant Superintendent Sherburne has come up with a clever idea. Their senior awards night is on that same night, and that if we have the Joint DLAC Education Committee earlier, it would open the door for board members who are out at that committee to also have the opportunity to go to Seniors Award Night. But if this doesn't work for the board, we would be happy to try to find another date. But it is at the end of the year, and we're starting to, lots of things line up there.
Originally, I had requested a change because one of the schools has a DARE graduation that night at 6:30, I believe. And
That day? I don't have that one. April 30th? I don't have anything in my calendar.
or am I thinking of a different?
Yeah,
29th at Altamont.
All right. I hadn't cross-checked, so maybe I'm confusing it with another meeting.
So this will be the Education Committee and DLAC joint meeting, and the presentation on the LCAP will be presented that night, I can assure you.
Speaking from the, it's fine with me from the DLAC perspective. I can make that. If it's okay with
I can make it. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Fine. Thank you. Item F, AT&T Cellular Tower Community Town Hall feedback. Staff report?
Earlier in the year, we were contacted by AT&T and asked to consider the possibility of a cell tower being placed at our stadium. We brought that information to the board. A team from AT&T and an engineer consultant presented to the board. Board directed staff to set up a community town hall meeting. We had that on, I believe, Wednesday, October 23rd. It was during that night that members in the audience asked us to have a Saturday meeting, so we set that up, and we had the Saturday meeting on January 11th. We received feedback. There were approximately 60 to 70 people at both events. There was a strong conviction among the lion's share of the people, if not all, the significant majority of the people, that they had safety concerns about cell towers on the school campus. So at this point, we're asking for an info discussion item and direction from the board about tenable project or not, and what they'd like staff to do further.
May I comment?
Pardon?
May I comment?
Certainly.
We did hear from a lot of people that had serious health concerns about having a cell tower there, and I don't think that we need to go there. There are other options that AT&T doesn't want to take because it's going to cost them more money. We were the cheapest game in town, but it's making a significant part of our community very nervous. I don't know. There's research both ways, that it could have an effect, a negative health effect, that it can't. I'm not even considering that. I don't think we as a board would want to upset that much of our community. And if they have these health concerns, that we should honor that. I don't think we should proceed with moving towards the installation of the cell tower.
And although I feel that the safety of the towers is, I think the safety is fine. I would, if there was a tower at the school, I would send my grandkids to that school without hesitation. But I feel like the community needs that tower, but there are other options, and I don't think the school district needs to proceed with it.
I will say that this board gave the community an opportunity to come and have a discussion, and I was very disappointed with the way a lot of the folks at that meeting presented themselves. It was very disappointing, very rude. A lot of the data that was being presented was flat out false. Ripon was being used as an example, and at the end of the, people talk about the beginning, but at the end, it was determined that the cell phone towers were not the cause of the issues. It was well water. But I will say, I was contacted by many people that said they felt differently, but they didn't feel comfortable in speaking their mind because the folks that were speaking were so, I guess, passionate, but again, rude. They didn't feel comfortable speaking. So I will say also that I don't think it's worth, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So I would say I concur not to move forward with any partnership.
I absolutely agree with the ultimate conclusion. I have a different take on the community meetings, not about the behavior, but I wanted to commend the board and the district. I think the people in the community, they actually said it during the meeting where, well, since the board isn't speaking, we can only assume that the board is in favor of this. And it was very difficult. Speaking personally, it was very difficult not to, it was very difficult to live by the terms of the Brown Act and not speak about policy in a informational meeting that's not agendized, that is not the appropriate place for the board to speak our mind. The whole point of that was, we actually had an information meeting on it before we went to a community meeting, and we said as a board, we specifically want to hear from the people about their views. And that's what we did. And then the people at the meeting said they wanted a Saturday meeting. And we said, fine, great point, we'll do a Saturday meeting. And then some of the people at the Saturday meeting said, you're wasting our time having 2 meetings, right? And it's like, well, we heard you the first time, but we also heard that you wanted a Saturday meeting, so we did what you asked. And so I just want, it's like, yes, it was frustrating, it was painful to go through. I want to commend the board and the district for going through it. I think the conclusion kind of spoke for itself. And now we can move on. We have a consensus of the board, and we can move on. So thanks to the community for making your voice heard, and thanks to the board and district staff for going through the process.
I do need to add something. I have to agree with Trustee Balzerini. There was a lot of very rude behavior at both meetings. The district had set up procedures for the meeting, which were totally and completely ignored in a very rude manner. It was, at times, almost seemed like a lynch mob. And that was very disappointing, especially when the superintendent was being as professional as possible to listen to people and to acknowledge what he was hearing, but they didn't want to listen. So that was disappointing. That was very disappointing. Doesn't change my opinion of us that we should not move forward with this, because there are other options for AT&T. I have AT&T. Yes, the service stinks. but I don't want to upset our community. It's just not worth it.
Good job, Heather.
Yes.
That was hard, so you did good.
It was hard on Heather at the first meeting. It was hard on the superintendent at the second meeting.
I believe you have a consensus of the board to not move forward with any more negotiation with AT&T on the cell tower at the high school.
So to communicate to the board, then what we will do is we will send out information via the newsletters and put on the website a very simple statement that the board has given direction to not move forward with the project. That's what we asked the folks. We told the folks we would do if there was a determination not to move forward, and that's what we'll do.
Very well, thank you. Item G. School design of the Evelyn Costa school site. Staff report?
So we brought together a group of administrators and teachers. We presented the West King NMR presentation. We talked about the two directions from the board about multiple buildings versus a single building, and about a potential kindergarten drop-off, a front drop-off versus a side drop-off, and a front parking lot versus a side parking lot. Noelle's going to bring up a picture, and this is the picture of the consensus, and not even the consensus. We had one person that had a counter position, and everything else was unanimous. There was unanimous on the multiple building design. It was unanimous on not having a kindergarten drop-off due to supervision concerns, and it was all but one who felt that the front drop-off with a side parking lot, but the person who was in opposition to that thought that they didn't like the idea that it was confusing how to get into the main office. So what I would like to recommend to the board is we consider that one side point is, if we do what the lion's share of the people are recommending, is to do the front drop-off, but have the architect design an entrance from the parking lot is very clear. Welcome, and here's how you get to the office.
Quick question, since we just addressed the parking lot at Wickland. Is the parking sufficient?
Good question.
So that I don't know to scale what that is. This will be a size of Altamont, so I don't know the answer to that. But there you can see that
It's a comparable number of
the
spots.
double
It should
the
be
rows.
okay.
There's the middle double row, and it looks like there's 4 rows of parking.
Or, yeah.
But that being said, this architect has designed multiple schools in our district. And
Yeah.
none of those schools have had issues, to my knowledge.
Correct.
None of those schools were Wickland.
And it looks like there's some parking at the top and at the bottom.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I noticed
Fresh on my mind.
a little connector between the parking lot and the drop-off lane. And if that's a street or a lane, I would strongly,
The little guy that's
little
connecting.
lane.
Yeah. Okay.
I would strongly recommend that if it is a pathway, have a gate so that we don't have people going through the parking lot trying to jump.
Or driving over an orange cone.
So I will, with board direction, we'll go with the multiple school model, the side parking lot with a welcoming entrance that's cleared how do people get to the office and that they feel welcome, and that there is a front drop off, and we'll take a look at that little, what I'll call an isthmus, and make sure that it's not a safety hazard.
Can you elaborate on the discussion regarding the one building versus multiple? Or was there a discussion?
I don't think they just generally like the one school plan. I don't think it wasn't like it was like they got to the conclusion of multiple building pretty quickly. Noelle, was there a Principal Sharp? Do you recall about that was pretty much an accurate? I mean, it was kind of like I didn't sense that there was a liking of the one big monster building.
Well, I will say thank you very much. I know this slowed down the process, but this is not at all the discussion that we were having.
Right,
So I'm
Yeah.
very thankful that we went through this exercise.
yeah.
I would echo that, definitely.
I'm guessing that 4 buildings means there are at least 3 or 4 elevators in the
Yep.
plan.
Every 2-story building will have an elevator. There's no doubt. The other thing, this is all came in today, is we're learning that there's a ratio or percentage tied to the amount of 2-story space versus 1-story space in terms of how OPSC allocates state matching funds. So we came to discover that today, and so we're investigating what that really means. So you have to have 75% or less 2-story to get additional funds. Because it came in and it's made absolutely 0 sense, I can't speak intelligently to it other than that is another fact that we could, this model might be a challenge or create a complication.
Well, I mean, I don't speak for the rest of the board, but if we have restrictions like that, they may not get that exact design, but at least we know more than one building. That gives us some guidance, but I don't think that we have to be married to what came out of that committee. If it's going to be excessive funds or, we're not going to get state matching funds because of it, I think we need to go, we need to be fiscally responsible here.
Yeah.
And the multiple building facility is more likely to pass the standard than the single building, which would be, so it was a out of left field kind of thing today.
Well, that's certainly something that needs to be fully investigated and understood before we move forward.
Yeah.
If nothing else, this gives Wes some direction, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Further discussion? Moving on to item 11, calendar. Tuesday, February 25th, 2020, Education Committee meeting at 6:30. Wednesday, March 4th, 2020, the next governing board meeting here in the boardroom at 7. Monday, March 9th, 2020, District Advisory Committee, 6 o'clock. Wednesday, March 18th, Safety Committee meeting, 3:30 here in the boardroom. In a moment, we will be adjourning to closed session where we will discuss student discipline and other confidential matters, Education Code Sections 3514, 48900, and 48912, student discipline and other education matters under the same sections, student discipline and other confidential matters under section 35146, 48900, 48912, 49060, and 20 U.S. section 1232G. Consider approval of long-term leave of absence for certified employee, conference with labor negotiators, public employee discipline dismissal, release and complaint, and conference with real property negotiators. Do I have a motion?
Move to adjourn to closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now adjourned to closed session. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We are returning to open session at 10:20 p.m. Closed session item A, student discipline and other confidential matters. Education Code Section 35146, 48900, and 48912, pupil personnel, Education Code 48918. The board took action on a motion by Trustee Balzerini and seconded by Trustee Lampel to approve staff recommendation of student readmission after expulsion of student number 181905 for the 2019-2020 school year by the following vote. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Closed session item B. Student discipline and other confidential matters. Education Code Section 35146, 48900, and 48912. Pupil Personnel Education Code 48918. Board took action on a motion by Trustee Balzerini and seconded by Trustee Lampel to approve staff recommendation for expulsion of student number 192009 for a violation of Board Policy 5131.6 and Education Code 48900C. Education Code 48915 for the 2019-2020 school year. The following vote, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Closed session, student discipline and other confidential matters, Education Code Section 35146, 48900, 48912, 49060, and 20 U.S.C. Section 1232. Board took action on a motion by Trustee Balzerini and seconded by Trustee Clements to not sure what you wrote here. Who seconded the?
MBSL, or it would be mostly MB?
It looks like IB.
Well, just put Sharon, I meant Sharon, I don't know why, but.
Okay. By Trustee, seconded by Trustee Lampel to approve, to deny the independent study appeal application for student number 192001 by the following vote. 4 ayes and 1 absent. Closed session item D, consider approval of long-term leave of absence for certificated employee 130450 from 3/12/20 to 5/22/20. Board took action on a motion by Trustee Balzerini and seconded by Trustee Clements to approve the long-term leave of absence for certificated employee 130450 from 3/12/20 to 5/22/20 by the following vote. 4 ayes and 1 absent. We are now,
Move for adjournment.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned.